Hey viewers, welcome back to Wes's Corner. Hope everybody's doing good today. I do have to apologize for the delay in uploads. I have been dealing with some stuff on a personal level that's taking my time away from this channel, so I do apologize for that. But we should be able to be back on a more consistent upload schedule from here on out. Also, in the meantime, I have upgraded some of my equipment, so better lighting, better video quality, and I continue to hope to upgrade that in the future. Today's video takes us back to the year 2000. We had the Y2K bug, we had purple ketchup, and we had one of the most hotly contested US presidential elections in recent history. The one that George W. Bush barely won. Also in the year 2000, Sony was releasing the PlayStation 2 console as a successor to the original PlayStation, and Squaresoft was still creating Final Fantasy titles. The title for 2000 was Final Fantasy IX, which was also the last Final Fantasy title released for the original PlayStation console. Designed as a throwback to the classic era of Final Fantasy games at the time, the ones released on the NES and SNES, this game brought back the ability to have 4 members in a party at one time, classic themes, as well as plot elements that had been absent previously, such as the crystals and the 4 fiends, as well as just the general aesthetic of the game, the character designs. The world went from the sci-fi dystopian setting of Final Fantasy 7 and 8 to a more medieval steampunk style setting with steam and mist powered machinery, bright cheery colors, and a pretty colorful exterior overall. But don't let that fool you. This had one of the darkest plots of any Final Fantasy game released up to that point, dealing with war, death, and today's topic, identity. And we're going to focus on the identity struggles of 3 main characters today: Zidane Tribal, Vivior Nisher, and Princess Garnet Till Alexandros, also known as Dagger. We're going to discuss how they have their own identity struggles, what happened, and how they overcame them. And then we're going to discuss the idea of identity on a deeper level towards the end of the video. Let's start with the character of Zidane. Zidane, at the age of 16, is a cheerful, optimistic, and a bit flirtatious young man. He likes to have fun, and he likes to be around his friends. And he's generally a good person all around. You don't need a reason to help people, he says, as his character quote. And this is true, you don't need a reason to help people. Helping somebody costs nothing and accomplishes everything. Found at a young age by Baku, leader of the gang of thieves masquerading as theater troupe Tantalus, Zidane knew that something wasn't quite right with his past. He knew that Baku was like his father figure, but he always had in the back of his mind this blue light as a clue to his past, but he couldn't remember any of it. However, late in the game, after traversing through Ibsen's castle, Oilvert, and then Kuja's desert palace, Zidane ends up on the world of Terra, a place that used to be its own planet but was now existing inside of the world of Gaia that Zidane had known as his home for most of his life. Terra was the world with the blue light. As he traveled through that world, he was told that he was actually an angel of death, created to be sent to Gaia to assimilate their souls and send them back to Terra to be used within the genomes that were created there. And the worlds would become one. Terra would fully assimilate Gaia. And it was Zidane's job to essentially assimilate these souls and basically kill the people of Gaia. This was very much contrasted with Zidane's past life, his life that he knew, how he had grown up. And this reveal of his purpose completely destroyed him for a time. Once happy and outgoing, he became withdrawn, retreated within himself. He would not let his friends help. He belittled them, put them down, cussed them. As he tried to face an armada of creatures that came at him for his life. But his friends didn't back down. They wanted to help him as he had helped them through so many struggles, through so many trials up to that point. In this sequence, known as the You're Not Alone sequence, named after the theme that plays during this particular part of the game, it is one of the best sequences, story elements ever devised in a video game in my mind. After Zidane's friends come to his rescue, they talk him up. He recovers and faces Garland, his creator, and goes back to being the plucky, heroic young man that he was, and accomplishes saving the world from his brother Kuja. Next, we have Vivi. How do we prove that we exist? Maybe we don't exist, is Vivi's quote. Designed as an homage to the Black Mages from the early Final Fantasy games, Vivi's appearance is perfectly replicated with those. The large steepled hat, the glowing yellow eyes, completely blacked out face, essentially a lack of a face, blue robes, and green pants, his staff and offensive magic. He is the Black Mage. He's also a young boy, basically. The most adorable existential crisis you'll run across in a video game. He meets Zidane early on in the game and is shortly after kidnapped. Not too long after that, he discovers other Black Mages similar to him. But unlike him, they seem to have no personality and seem to have just been created for destruction, as though they were mindless drones. This confuses and upsets him quite a bit as a young boy. He doesn't really know what to do with this information, but Zidane does promise to help him out and get to the bottom of that. It is determined that Queen Braun, with the help of Kuja, is having these black mages created in a factory meant simply for destruction, items of war, if you will. And then beyond these mass-produced black mages, you have the black waltzes. Like Vivi, they do seem to have a personality and seem to be able to act on their own. Unlike Vivi, however, these black waltzes are evil and they attack with malicious intent, doing a lot of damage and destruction. There are, however, also black mages that were mass produced that don't seem quite so evil, encountered later on in the game in the Black Mage Village. It is determined that these black mages all seem to have a limited lifespan, that one day they'll just stop or basically die. They have no purpose but to destroy. But Vivi was a little bit different. He ends up being very good. But these revelations, of course, he doesn't like those revelations. He doesn't like that at all. It does cause him to have an identity crisis. It makes him question his existence, why he was created, what his purpose is, that sort of thing. It's something that he does recover from in time, but for a young boy with a sort of childlike way of thinking, it does bother him a lot. But he does carry on and help with the burden of saving the world, and is instrumental in doing so. Next, we have, finally, Princess Garnet, Dagger. Her quote is, "Someday I will be queen, but I will always be myself." Which does speak well to her own struggle of identity, trying to reconcile between being a figure of royalty, yet being her own person. Raised as the princess of this country of Alexandria, she then later finds out this is not the case. She was actually adopted by Queen Braun at a very young age after Garnet's own mother was killed at sea. Garnet, at that time, lost her memory, had no recollection of her previous experiences. So she believed that she actually was the princess, but she was in fact the replacement princess for Queen Braun's own daughter, who had died about a year earlier due to illness. Though Queen Braun, queen that she is, was not so benevolent. Under the influence of Kuja, she waged wars, destroyed cities, and took countless lives. This did not bode well with Garnet, who, upon escaping the castle, changed her identity to Dagger. As she realized Queen Braun's true intentions, she fought back against the mother that she had known essentially her whole life, whose goal was to extract the Eidolons or summon monsters inside of her, as Garnet was actually a summoner from a faraway land who had these special abilities that Queen Braun and Kuja wanted to exploit. There were very few summoners left at that time, so they had essentially struck gold. Later on in the story, Queen Braun does pass away She does beg for forgiveness in her final moments as she is freed from Kuja's influence. Her death affects Garnet greatly. She becomes mute, unable to talk, unable to use magic a lot of time in battle, and just essentially at an internal war with herself. She feels as though she can't fulfill the duties as queen of her kingdom, so this breaks her down. She does in time recover, and her first big action upon recovering, not as a queen, but as her own person, is to cut her hair off with a dagger, creating her new identity, not just as the queen, but as Dagger, the summoner who assists in helping to save the world from Kuja and to again restore peace, and then she can rule over her kingdom as an actual good royalty figure. Now, these are three separate levels of identity that we deal with here. Zidane's and Vivi's are very similar to each other in essence that they were both created, designed for destruction, and in fact, the creation of Vivi and the Black Mages was perhaps inspired by the creation of Zidane's race, the genomes that existed on the planet of the world of Terra. Their struggles with identity come with, I was created for this purpose. I don't agree with this purpose. I reject my destiny and create my own destiny. I'm going to do good. I'm not going to do bad. That's where they come from, basically. With Garnet, she is more, again, an orphan. She comes from a mysterious race of these summoners. Like, I have all these abilities. And my own mother and her people want to exploit that. They want to draw them out of me, which could kill me. Yet, my mother also wants to wage war on other countries. She wants to destroy the world because of this mysterious man who's been following alongside her. I can't agree with that. I have to do something to stop her, but she's my own mother. And that creates quite a lot of conflict as well. How do you come to terms with a person destroying the world being the person who helped raise you? So her struggle to overcome that identity of queen, princess and then queen rather, and then also save the world, that's difficult to fathom. And honestly, these identity crises would be difficult for anyone. You were born, you lived your life a certain way, and then you find out that you had a completely different destiny on the completely other side of the tracks. But you have the power to change that. We have the power to change our identity, our destiny, if it's not what we want, if it's not what we are comfortable with, if it's not what resonates with us. This can be attributed on a more real world level to gender identity, sexual identity, racial identity. If you don't feel like you belong in the body that you were born in, if you don't feel that you are a gender that matches your biological sex, you can change that. If you have gender dysphoria, there are things that can be done to help you. If you don't resonate with your race, if you feel attacked by stereotypes, you can do things to fight that, to make the world better for those like yourself that deal with those kinds of things. You can do things for your identity to make you feel as though you are the person that you should be, that make you happy. Struggling with identity is a big mental health concern. And if you struggle with your own identity, or you know someone who is struggling with their identity, please reach out. There are resources available. While I may not know what you're going through directly, I will be your ally. And we can help you fight through this identity crisis and save your world and make it better for those who are fighting the same fight that you are. I'm always here. If you need me, I will give you resources. I will point you in the right direction. Or if you just need an ear, I will listen. But as for today's video, this has been a very long one. So this is pretty much going to wrap it up. I'd like to see your thoughts in the comments below. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified of future videos. Our next video, which should be released without too much delay, will focus on the mental science of Breaking Bad. Hope to see you next time, and thank you for visiting Wes's Corner. Goodbye.